In 2013, there was little information outside of medical journals and one Dutch website that existed about TAPS. And so we relied heavily on our medical team in Leiden to keep us up to date and tell us what it was all about. We were exceptionally fortunate that they were looking after us so well, but also that they had the most research in the world on TAPS. And we had more information than most people. And so we were carefully monitored. And when we were looking for others who could share our experience, there really wasn't anyone. And it was one of the most lonely and frightening times of my life. Our babies were born at 31 weeks, and their present and their future were so uncertain. And so to alleviate the stress of the time, I wrote a blog about birth for my family and my friends at home, and included some anecdotes about the hospital stay. And a short time after delivery, I came out of recovery from the C-section, and I visited my beautiful girls in their incubators. And when I returned to the ward, it was approaching dinner time, and I heard a knock on the door, and a man entered my room carrying a covered tray. And I really thought this was my dinner. And when he placed the tray in front of me, and he introduced himself as Enrico Loprior, and he wanted to show me my placenta, and my mind just went blank. In front of me was a dye-injected placenta, and he did an amazing, interesting job explaining that it was classic at TAPS, but it was really poor timing. And so he asked for permission to take it and look at it under a microscope, and I signed over the permission. And all the time I was just thinking this could be my dinner. I thought this was my dinner, and that was really my main concern. And so in the blog, I wrote a humorous anecdote, and I compared him to Gollum and the Ring, and even used the line, "my precious," because he got so excited when I told him that he could take it for research. And following on from that, there was amazing care, and we took our babies home after 5 and 6 weeks. Our girls thrived, and after 6 months, I sent Enrico a message saying, "Look, here's a picture of the girls. Aren't they doing amazing?" And he wrote back, and he was just so incredibly grateful that I'd sent this photograph, and he wanted to know more details. And then he also mentioned that he had read my blog. You see, I had left in my signature of my email a link to my blog, and I was mortified. So if you can imagine my horror and my shock, and I died and crawled into a hole. But this sparked a really interesting friendship, and it inspired my passion for TAPS awareness and TAPS research, because they were so spontaneous and so much fun. And I got such a wonderful reception from him for writing this blog. And that was really part of what inspired me to do what I do. So we created a Facebook group, and after a few years, because there was a lot of misinformation about TAPS out there. And from that grew this need to really create something a little bit more than just a Facebook group and a couple of web pages, because TAPS information didn't exist. And what did exist was very technical and very jargony. So with his help, and of course the amazing researchers I've met along the way, Femke, Lisanna, Joanne, Janine, and many, many more, we've created this website. And I messaged Enrico and I said, "Listen, I think the next step I need to do is start a charity." And his response was, "Then I will be the patron." And that really shows his support and enthusiasm for my ideas. And this has grown from not only myself, but all the team and the Facebook moderators, and we are one big community. And this is a passion of mine, and it's all started because of the incredible support and care I received while I was pregnant, while my girls were facing uncertainty, and beyond those years. And every patient deserves this. And not only that, they deserve access to the right experts and people who can answer their questions, and have a community that supports them and is enthusiastic about TAPS research. And I am so, so grateful for the ongoing support of the research team and the community that is built. And it's all because of a pair of red and white twins. And the photograph of TAPS twins everywhere you see is my girls. They were literally minutes old. And that photograph is a picture that's now used across the world to demonstrate the color difference in TAPS twins at birth. And I think it's amazing, because when I see that photograph, I just see so many emotions and a time in my life that was so uncertain and so scary. And what it represents now is a picture of hope and sharing a rare disease awareness, because not everyone thinks about the problems that face twins as being a rare disease. But these rare diseases that do affect twins need more awareness. And I'm so proud that my girls can be that face of TAPS. And I'm so proud that their story has inspired so much of what we do as a community.
Collaboration with patient organizations is of utmost importance for us as researchers, but also for patients, to improve care for TAPS patients and TAPS families, because with sharing our knowledge and information, we know where the information gap is for patients, but we also learn from patients what the problems they experience with their TAPS children, which gives us new ideas for research projects and to improve care for these patients.
And it's also fun because we think of new projects like the Twin Run, getting funds, but also connecting patients to caregivers. And like, for instance, webinars, the patient webinars were organized to really answer questions of patients and lower the threshold towards caregivers. And during these webinars, it's very nice to see that research questions arise because of the experiences we hear of the patients.
Collaboration with patient organizations is very important, not only to broaden our view on the disease, because we only get the medical insight, and with patient collaboration we can also get the experience from the patients, but it also helps us to get new insights for future research.
Having close connection with researchers means so much to families like ours, because with a rare disease like TAPS, questions we have as parents aren't often something you can just search online or ask a pediatrician. With such a small community like ours, it's absolutely vital to rely on each other and the research. Having the researchers closely connected to our community means that we can ask questions, they can be answered using the research, and our concerns are heard. It also means that research can be directed in ways that researchers might not have otherwise thought of, based around our questions, concerns, and thoughts as parents.
I think that's one of the best parts about like the relationship we have, is that it's basically all about knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
And we share patient perspectives and parent perspectives,
Yeah.
because a lot of the time in the rare disease world and even in the general world, parent perspectives are not shared, and some parents don't feel that they can step up and share their stories or give that feedback, and now we can. And so, like we said, in the webinars, you're getting the patient feedback and you're developing research topics.
It's
and
really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, like a part is also that we can't do without each other, because like in all diseases, I think we can't do without each other. But in rare diseases, we have to really try to get the efforts together, because otherwise we will not manage improvement.
That's it. Because we're such a small community. Yeah. And that's really the whole thing, is that without researchers, we don't have answers.
Yeah.
So, but you guys can't give us the answers without us asking questions.
No. So that's it's really
And I think that's really the beauty of it, is that we can ask these questions, we can give these answers, and it means like back from 8 years ago when I was told, well, we think it's a mild disease, but we're not really sure.
Now we know.
Now we know. Well, okay, maybe not so. Less on the mild and more on the you need to be aware.
But it's so it's like in 8 years, I think it's long,
Yeah,
but it's also very short to have
but
all this.
when I see the evolution, okay, because like we're coming up to 9 years ago, that for me, our diagnosis.
Yeah.
And then, when I look at the evolution of what we've been told in 9 years, from we really don't know much to, well, actually.
It's
and
amazing.
I'm like, it blows my mind when I do a retrospective.
And that for like a rare disease, I think.
Yeah, and like learning more and more all the time. But again, it's escalating, and having patient feedback and parent feedback and community feedback is really helping push that drive for knowledge. Because I know I've seen you guys after the webinars, you come out and we're all like, yes. We're pumped. We can do this. We have all these ideas. And like to me, that's like so rewarding.
Yeah, and it also really like energizes. I don't know how you do it, but it really works like in synergy. If you see where you do it for. I think that also
exactly.
Really helps.
And hearing patients going, I was never told this, and like, well, it was probably because they didn't know. But now we've got an answer for you, and we can follow up on things. I think is really important. And they really, for me, I think it's exciting to just work alongside you guys and have like the ear to listen to.
And just texting.
Oh yeah, just texting.
I really appreciate like just the easy communication.
And I think that's another thing that really sets us apart, because when I talk about the relationship I have with you guys, and it's all first name basis, and and people are like, you call them by their first names, and I'm like, that's how they introduce themselves. I'm sorry, Dr. Vai.
No.
I have a feeling Femke would probably throw something at me if I called her Dr. Slavica.
So I was looking for like, but that's it's really that element of caring and community and friendship, and that we hang out, and we hang out in hospital rooms. In our fetal therapy room.
Yes, it's impressive. I'm feeling.
Because now also the results of the lemon and everything is coming up.
I know.
Like nice. We are going to also do like a social media.
That would be fabulous.
So you can share it.
Absolutely.
But maybe it would be nice to ask Sophie to make like a simple video or something.
Well, that's fine, and I'm quite happy to make the video pretty as well, if that need be, because. She was saying that the rates of neurodevelopmental impairment and that are quite high in it as well, and I think that's a really important thing to
also
communicate.
I will try to. I know she's very busy now, but maybe she has some time.
That's fine. I can help with that as well. But it's really important, and this is the whole thing, is that these long-term outcomes for everything need to be communicated, even for TTTS, because there's still this whole thing of they're out now, they're fine, you don't need to follow them up. And these people are coming out, and then that magical age of 4, they're starting to find those problems, and we're like, that's why we're always very open and honest within our community, is that okay, they're meeting milestones now. I looked at a post on my Facebook this morning, and it said the girls that were 4 months old, and it's 6 months old, 4 months adjusted, and everything's going great. They're developing at a normal 4-month-old level and at a very low 6-month-old level. And I remember writing that post and thinking, I'm so happy because everything is fine. And then now, of course, we find out more in the long-term outcomes, and it's a really bittersweet moment to look back and go, oh, I'm so excited at that time because they were doing so great.
Yeah.
And then, we watch the deterioration happen, and I can pinpoint it. It's age 4.
Yeah.
And, well, around that age, like when they started school, that things started to really show. And now we're like, and now we look back and we're like, oh yeah, that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit. That doesn't fit. Before that magical 4 age. But
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And it's like, it's not a case of, I think for me as a parent, it's a case of, just helping educate that, okay, yes, things go great and they can go great and everything's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just that, be aware, be conscious.
It's so nice because this morning we had like the handover, and it was exactly this what we discussed. We have like a quite short term feeling, as like you are describing, also very nice, that if you are in the hospital and you have 2 alive babies who are doing quite well and come out of the NICU, then we think yes. And now I think nowadays there is much more like focus on the long-term outcomes. And then you see in my other research projects with the adults, extreme premature, they born people who are very facing out in adulthood, like problems, and they are looking for resignation, and they are looking for what is my extreme, because of being born extreme prematurely, and what is like my personality. It's like a very difficult, and they if they go to the Huisarts, the home doctor, the GP, they know enough about it, and we totally understand, because nobody knows exactly. It should be having much more focus on because now it's only about
that immediate survival,
but it's the long term. What's obviously for many diseases coming, and but it's important. And I think that's also the point. I think where we learn the most of our like collaboration is the long term outcome, because we speak to each other. That's coming back to us as doctors in the
exactly. And that's my experience. Is like, I share my experience because I'm very open about it. A lot of people ask because the girls are so widely recognized, and people ask what was my experience, and like, well, it's not been all roses. Yes, I have the beautiful Snow White and Rosewood twins, as they call them, or potato tomato twins, but it's been quite a challenge to get that far. You spend the first 2 years of your life processing what has happened, and then by the time you realize that oh, there's other things I need to be looking out for, it kind of gets to a point where you're like, it gets very overwhelming. And that's why I think it's really important that we have open discussions, and I've always brought my stories forward because we have this connection already, but there are stories of patients that are still having ongoing issues, and
it's on 2 or maybe multiple levels. It's on what it has to do with like mentally, what it has to do with parents, but also what the influences of the mental health of parents on their children, but also what are the late effects, and what is from prematurity or something, or what is because of TAPS or a disease. That's also difficult.
And one of the biggest challenges we find in the advocacy part of our work is that a lot of people are going, they are not related to TAPS, these are routine prematurity related issues, and we're like, okay, so then explain to me why, if it's routine prematurity related for ANSD, why is it at 1% in the general population, or 3% in the general population, but 15% in TAPS donors only? Why is that? Why is it like that? And they kind of like go, oh wait,
but it's I think that's really the power of collaboration, having this like feedback continuously.
And we also get from you guys a lot of information about we get the latest information, so as soon as there is an update, and I'm thinking the classic one is, I came up to visit Lasana for something, and we sat down, and Enrico popped into the room, and they were saying, oh, so you heard the news about TAPS donors being deaf, and I was like, no. What?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then it took me a moment to process, and I'm like, oh, and like, what's wrong? And I said, well, Emily's very severely speech delayed, and she's very severely speech delayed, and she actually has a speech impediment, and no one's tested her hearing. And we were like, well, maybe we should do something about that.
Yeah.
So that was honestly.
But it's such a great experience how research impacts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I spent 6 months panicking that she was deaf, and there was a whole other story behind that. But turns out she's not. She's just selectively hearing.
Yeah.
But, and her speech impairment and delays are actually related to another form of neurodevelopmental impairment. But this is what happens with, when we have these collaborations, as we find out these things, and suddenly we can bring that news to our community, and we can push it out and say, you need to advocate for this. This is the research that we have. And we can talk also via the webinars. Like, that was another thing. I don't think a lot of people actually believed that these long-term effects were so powerful and so impactful until we started talking about them at the webinars, and that was all based on people's questions.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it was really looking, going both sides, because we learned also very many of the patients involved, and having new research questions because multiple people say the same. And the other way around. Yeah, we saw also some
the real aha moments of why this is important, and it's not just one crazy Australian lady going, you need to get hearing testing. This is actually coming from experts, and
we should make a new round.
Yes, we need to. Attention.
It's nice. Huh? I'm also.
I say our images. And when people say, so whose images are there? And I'm like, well, it's a long story. We own some, they own some, and we have joint custody of some.
Well, it's very nice. I think one of the ones we received from you with the shunt is going to be used now in some
Oh, that's perfect.
So that's very nice.
It's such an and I mean, Amanda is such a great resource as well.
It's very nice. And it really helps also in the discussing with the patient. I just tell with the picture in front of me, and then afterwards they can read the page again, and then
it's there, and the information, and when we refer people to it, it's also a connection because they have seen that image already. And I think that's one of the reasons why medical imaging is so important. And I love with Amanda's style as well, that it's so simple and it's so easy to understand. But it's always fun though to say to people, it's kind of it's complicated relationship. If it was a Facebook status, it would be it's complicated. We own some, they own some, and some have joint custody. But
it's very nice.
The divorce could be messy.
Let's not do that.
No, we're not doing that. So that everyone has a connection to what's going on, and that they see the money is happening.
And that would be very nice to also bring back.
That's all right. We can cut that in the video.
I need to run.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
See you later.
Yeah, we'll see you around.
Ik laat je straks weten.
And this is the problem with working in a live hospital environment.
Well, that's how it is.
That's exactly it. And But
that's also the challenge for you working with us. It's always like
yeah,
in between.
It is, and I mean, I have the flexibility as a freelancer that I can go into my calendar and block a whole day out. But you guys are really, and it's something that I'm always grateful for, because you always make time for questions, and it just feels like this is one of the things that I think sets us apart, is that when I contact you, it's not like I don't feel like I'm annoying you. Well, sometimes I feel like I'm annoying you.
No.
But when I contact you guys, it's always a feeling of fun, and yes, we can answer your question, or no, it's it's not a good time, but look, I'll call you later, and that's fine. And
and all the crazy ideas.
And the crazy ideas that come through at 10 a.m. 10 p.m. I mean, I think our International TAPS Day idea happened at like 11:30 p.m. one night.
But it worked out quite nicely.
It did, and people are picking up on it, and it's escalating every year. That's an experience that I have from doing this, of course, is like seeing the back end of the hospital, but also interacting with you guys in your native environment, and showing the world that you are real people on a first name basis.
We are very normal.
Yeah, exactly right. And when I look back at the photos that we take as a team, we're extremely normal.
Of course. It's just that we are in other role, but we are all the same.
But I think that's really one of the things about breaking down those barriers, and that's something that I've always been passionate about, is like the experience that I had is different, and I know this from being an Australian and having been in the Australian hospital system as well. It's very much here is a doctor, here is a patient, and there is always a barrier. And to me, I think having this experience in a different hospital in a different country, and I don't think it's the same in every hospital, but having this experience where I can talk face to face with a doctor and break down those barriers, and they listen, and then they take that information and use it, and that's so unique. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And and they think they think maybe I'm bragging, or in Australia we call it skiting, but they think I'm bragging that I go into the hospital, I'm going to visit Joanne and Janko, and they're like, what are you doing? And like, that's really, you don't do that. And I'm like, oh, they're friends.
Of course.
So
and we just are having all the same aim. I think that's
exactly right. And I think our mutual aim is really just to make sure that our twins are looked after. Mine's from a patient perspective, yours is from a research and a care perspective, but the end goal is that these rare twins are looked after, and that they have the best possible outcome in life.
That's where we really stand for, and that's also the I think also patients maybe only understand when we are so happy when we get pictures.
Yes.
We are like, yes, this is where we like the babies in the incubator and when everything is fine and when they leave the hospital. But we are actually more happy if we see them growing up and seeing that they are doing well. So we are very happy. Like patients send us pictures like every year and showing they're doing well.
That's the whole thing. And I mean, like, really, one of those patient follow-up emails is how this all came about anyway, because it was just sending a picture of my girls to Enrico and saying, look at them. And then of course the whole story after that, but look at them now, and like, but then I don't think people actually understand that that's such a big part of it for you guys as well, seeing the long term and seeing how they develop. It's not only about the long term outcomes for these kids, but how they are in the long term.
Of course, but also like a personal thing per patient. Obviously, you really want them to have a good outcome.
Yeah,
See
exactly.
how it goes,
I mean, that's really all it is. And of course, you never ask a parent, you can ask Sophie, never ask a parent for photos of their children because they will always send them. But I think, you know, when it's your doctor saying, oh, send me a photograph, and they're like, do I dare? Like, are they just being nice? And then you realize, no, they're actually really engaged and want to see how they're turning out. It makes me really sad because, like, I'm thinking with my girls, and this is another thing that's kind of going through my head at the moment, is that we have their final 8-year-old appointment in 2 weeks' time.
Really?
Yeah, 2 weeks. And so their 8-year follow-up is coming up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the last one. And there is still this, like, this sense of finality in my mind, even though I know that we're going to be calling, and, you know, within 24 hours, I'll probably be talking with one of you. But that's the end for the girls.
But maybe not forever.
Not forever, because you know that crazy TAPS Foundation could like fund some more research.
12 years or something like that.
Maybe they could fund some more research and get a longer term outcome. But yeah, that was I think that's one of the really big things.
Because that was one of the, I think, the most important lessons I learned from the adult extreme premature born people who actually had their most difficult times between 12 and 18.
Yeah.
So we are learning. And we're trying to fund everything. And obviously also the patients become older. So
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like it's a shame that it stops at 8, but then I look at it and I'm like, wow, it actually goes till age 8. Most people are cut off at 2. Yeah. Because prematurity ends at 2.
But we will, no, it will never end. But
no, it doesn't end.
We will, maybe it's another idea.
Yeah.
For next year.
Yeah, for next year we can do that. Yeah, you know.
12-year follow-up.
Yes, a 12-year follow-up. We could fund that. You know. Yeah. We'll have our R&B status by then, and it'll be fine.